Bye, guys.
Start webinar. Right, 3, 2, 1. People joining now. It's 7 of us here now. Just give people a couple more minutes just to join. And we'll go from there.
Okay, we are live. Thank you, guys. Good luck.
Cheers, Yossi. Good morning, everyone, or afternoon, depending where you are in the world. Thanks for joining the webinar today, taking time out of your days. Today, firstly, I'll introduce myself. I am Matt Allen. I'm a customer success manager here at Pixellot. I mainly deal with UK and Ireland clients, professional clubs, grassroots clubs in varying different sports. That's a bit of my background and my role in Pixellot. And today I'll be leading this webinar. And joining me from Southampton today is Connor Cole. And he can briefly introduce himself in a moment. But the main purpose of today's webinar is basically learning from the ins and outs of Southampton Football Club Academy, how their football academies work with video to improve not only the players themselves, but how that also builds into a team environment. So yeah, nice to meet you, Connor. Thank you for taking the time for joining us today. Would you mind just describing a bit about your role, how you got into it, a bit about yourself, just so the attendees, people that are joining us today, just know who you are and what you're about, basically.
Yep. Yeah, sure. So my role at Southampton is so under 16 analyst first and foremost, and then a sort of newer part of the role is analysis research lead, which I come on to talk a little bit about later. So how I got into it, I guess. So I've been working my 3rd season here full time, 4th overall. So I did a work placement program here, like alongside my master's course, which was allowed me to sort of work full time here in a work placement capacity across different age groups while also studying my master's. So I sort of got into it that route. And then previously had a couple of other internship experiences at undergrad and when I was slightly younger at Norwich and at Solihull as well in the National League. So yeah, that's sort of how I got into the role.
Yeah, perfect. Just look, we'll do question and answers as we go along. So any particular moment in time you have a question to ask, please feel free. We will try and do them as we go along, just so the questions stay relevant to the topic that we're talking about, stuff like that. So yeah, so from your time at Southampton, like what is the structure within Southampton, and how big of a part does the academy play in that?
Yeah, I think the academy plays a really big part in the club overall. I think historically it's obviously really well known for its academy and the various different academy graduates, and that's still very much the case now. If quite a big part of the club is trying to push through academy graduates through the pathway either here or elsewhere playing professionally. So yeah, and obviously our department now makes up quite a big part of the academy as well.
And within your role in the academy, like what is your day-to-day? What do you mainly focus on? Yeah, how important is the work you do to not only to the players but to the team that you work with?
Yeah, so I guess maybe an example week maybe. So as I say, the majority of my work is working with the under-16s, so the team and individuals as well. So I guess start on a match day really. So on a match day we're lucky enough to have a lot of IP cameras at the training ground. So part of the match day would be capturing a feed from our IP cameras live onto the bench during a game. And then which allows us obviously to be around the coaches, around the subs, around the other members of staff, to have a bit of a sort of a live impact in game, and aid the development and perhaps use clips at half time, having a sort of a narrow focus on maybe a couple of topics or a couple of development points that we've been working on during that week. And then building into the week from there really. So I suppose your standard sort of debriefing at the start of the week, framing the week around a particular topic, whatever that might be, sort of making the meetings around that. Sending out, so we do like a post-match report, so sending that out, linking in with the sports science guys and the GPS data they receive, and then I suppose towards the tail end of the week or in the middle of the week, making sure we deliver sort of as many, quite a big focus on like individuals, so as many individual debriefs as we can. So that will link in from some of the bits I've coded on a match day, some of the bits the coaches have seen, so we're splitting that between us throughout the week, and making sure we can get around as many individuals as possible and give them feedback, but also they can bring clips to us and deliver their own feedback as well. And then towards the end of the week, creating and making a pre-match meeting, again to go back into the next game and cycle from there really. And I guess the other part, which is the newer part, is the research stuff. So yeah, as I say, that's still a very new part of the role at the minute, but the main idea of that is that we're trying to do a lot of internal research to help our processes, and I suppose the bonus of doing it internally is that we can directly apply it to our players and stuff. That makes up the other part of the role. Yeah,
that's great way into my next question. Like how this obviously new role of the analysis research lead, like is that a major turning point or focus of the academy? There's something they're looking to move into more, or is it just a trial basis kind of scenario?
Yeah, definitely a direction they're looking to go towards more. So not just in analysis, but in broader sort of academy, we've got 3 PhD students that work throughout the academy. So looking at various different things, whether that's coach behaviors, virtual reality, things like that. Definitely a way the club's looking to go in terms of research and combining, I suppose, the academic side with the practical side, where there's quite often been a bit of a gap. So trying to bring those two things together, which I suppose perfectly links into some of the stuff we're trying to do as well, of just having research that you can actually apply day to day, I suppose, rather than just doing it for the sake of research.
Yeah, and within the research role, is it research to do with the U16s that you work with, or the U9s to U14s, or how's it kind of?
Yeah, it can be much broader. Yeah, it can be much broader across the whole academy, really. So, like, for example, we're doing something in the minute looking at like learning environments and context-dependent learning. What's the best learning environments for the players to be able to recall stuff on the pitch? So we've started that looking at a specific age group, but with the help of some of the work placement students we've got. So Albert's one of the work placement students who works with at the minute. He's really helping us sort of broaden that out, so we can look at, like you say, more age groups rather than just one specific age group. We can look at bits across the academy.
And obviously, whilst you're conducting your research, how do you go about collecting the data? Is it questionnaires, feedback? Is it video? Is it through the match analysis that you have on a weekend game? How do you bring the data to live in the research? Yeah,
loads of different sources really. So talking about that context dependent learning when we're doing it at the minute, that's we've set up our own sort of study really. So that's us collecting the data in I guess sort of an experiment, or sort of something that we've set up. So we collect the data ourselves on that. But then also in other projects we have we use stats perform, so we have Opta data from 16s upwards, 15s upwards. So we're able to pull some of that data together sometimes. And then also trying to link in a lot more now with the sports scientists. So can we link their GPS data in and have everything kind of in one source rather than having bits of data over here and over there, trying to pull everything together really. So yeah, it can be from various different sources, I guess.
Nice. Whilst we're talking about yourself and your research background, has anyone watching have any questions for Connor around either his role as the analyst or the research lead? Please fire away with a question, or we can check in later. Just a sort of nice interjection here. Give it a couple of seconds. Yeah, we can probably pop back in a moment. Just going to move on to more of like the video and analysis side of your role, of how it works within Southampton. How in both your roles, how does video play a part in your workflow, or how crucial, how often is it used within your workflow?
Yeah, I think it's the majority of the workflow is through video, really. So I mentioned we obviously use data, but we'd probably say we're still more video based than we are based on data. So yeah, it plays a huge part of the role, really. So we would capture every training session, every match, either through our IP cameras, through the Pixellots if we were at external venues, or through just camera and tripod. So yeah, video is the basis for everything, really. So that would form our debriefs, our pre-match meetings, framing the weeks, individual debriefs, and even, I suppose, even helping to challenge coaches and stuff. So if it's to do with coach development bits, yeah, it's all majority sort of based on video. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a great point about the coach development as well. How is video supporting the methodologies or the philosophy of the club in the academy, and how do you share the knowledge and insights from the video? Presentations, do you get them in live scenario, then replay it back on a tablet? How does it fit into the methodology?
Try and vary it as much as possible, really. It's part of the research we're doing at the minute, is to try and find any particular sort of feedback methods that can be more impactful than others. But yeah, we massively vary it. So still have like the traditional classroom based debrief where it's a video on the screen, and it can be the coach talking, maybe it's player led, maybe it's the analyst leading it. And then we also try and do a lot of live analysis where possible. So either that having a screen pitch side, or we're lucky enough to have sort of a big screen and projector in our indoor dome. So whether that's doing a drill, maybe doing a match prep 11v11, having maybe 5 minutes on when they come in for a drinks break, and then we can maybe show a couple of clips, go back out, try and see if they can replicate it or better it, and then sort of keep that process, recycle that process. So we could do it like that. And then also we use Huddle, of course, so the players and coaches can do their bits away from the training ground. Obviously, in the younger age groups, they have a lot of travel, they have a lot of school, they have a lot going on in their lives. So it's helpful for them to be able to watch videos and review themselves when they're in the car or traveling to and from training or matches. Nice.
And obviously, as we're approaching the MENA Cup, which kicks off in a couple of days, how important are tournaments such as the MENA Cup for player development? Obviously, you play in teams from around the world, different cultures, different philosophies. Yeah, how important is that for the players that you develop?
Yeah, I think it's massive experience. I think it concentrates loads of different experiences into one sort of small time frame. Whether that's learning how to deal with different temperatures, making sure your nutrition's right, your sleep, your analysis, and like you say, playing teams from all across the world, really, that you wouldn't necessarily play on a week-to-week basis. So massively important.
And how does the video capturing of these tournaments benefit the players? Obviously, they get to see different teams, different styles of play. Like, how does that benefit the player and having it captured?
Yeah, definitely. So I think it's really important because it's more like a first team environment, or even like a tournament, like a World Cup, Euros environment, where you're going game to game. So you're reviewing a game really quickly and then straight away moving on to the next game. If you're playing games day after day, like I think it will be in the MENA Cup. So really important. And then obviously when we're at the MENA Cup, we'll capture all our games, either through the Pixellot stuff or through our cameras. And then that allows us to, again, when we're back at the hotel, either do a pre-match or a debrief. It might be that it's such short time that we have to combine the two. So it might be like a debrief and a pre-match in one. So just loads of different experiences really for the players that they don't get on a typical week.
Yeah, good point. Is that also a good learning curve for not only yourselves as coaches and analysts, and also players, like the quick turnaround time, how you take in the info from one game which you need to prepare and move into the next one?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. They haven't got like a week like they'd usually have to have time to review the game, make some clips. It's straight on to the next one. So it's a really good sort of replication of what we hope they would achieve in later down the line, if that's World Cups, Euros, tournaments, where it's all quite quick and moving on to the next game.
Yes, great. Anyone, just another pause a moment, anyone got any questions, feel free to put them in the Q&A chart at the bottom or the webinar chat. We can pose them to Connor. Do you know how many games you're playing at the MENA Cup, or is it determined on how well you
I think
progress?
it's a group of 4, so I think it's 3 games initially on I think it's Saturday, Sunday, Monday. So, and then I'm not sure after that if there's any knockout games, but yeah, at least 3. So.
Is it a tournament you participated in before? Or is
No, this is our first one. So yeah, looking forward to it.
Good experience, definitely. Just moving on to a bit more technology side. Does technology help with player buying and their interaction with obviously not only yourself as an analyst, but also coaches? And how do they react to the different technologies that are on offer, like you mentioned, Pixellot systems, sports code, anything like that?
Yeah, I think they buy into it really quickly now, probably a lot even quicker than like staff members and bits like that. They're so used to technology. So whether it's watching back their clips, making clips, it's stuff they on the whole like actually enjoy doing and take on really quickly as well. So I think it's only becoming more and more important, and players take control almost really of their own analysis going forward, whether that's clipping their own bits, feeding back about their own games. I think it'll only get more and more important for those guys.
Yeah, is there a trend that comes that you see with obviously the more exposure they get to video, the technology, that players like to do a certain way? Or are you seeing it one particular team really likes to do, I don't know, interactive breakdown of the game, or some just like to see their footage? Do you see trends and patterns within?
Yeah, I think it definitely varies, and you've got to be careful not to sort of tie on with the same brush. There will be some players that probably couldn't use the correct terminology in the language and talk to you about the game, but they could quite easily show you it on the pitch. So they're still learning in that sense. And then there's others that will like discuss and talk to you about tactics for hours and hours and have brilliant in-depth discussions. So it's definitely not like one blanket for everyone. But I think the trend is definitely that it's becoming more and more popular, and they're more and more used to making their own clips and watching the game back.
Yeah, great. We've got a question from Archie, which ties in quite well. How important is filming coaching training sessions? Is that a good part of your role, or how important do you feel that is?
Yeah, I think it's really important. And again, it's something sort of linking in with the research side of things we've been doing a lot on recently. So working with Steve King, who's our coach development manager, and building almost frameworks. So whether it's just building code windows that we can use, or the coach developers can use to code coach behaviors, and then is there any sort of output windows we can have that nicely present a few bits of data to feedback to the coaches, not as like trying to catch people out. It might just be to start. It's more of like to start a discussion. So it might be as simple as, this is how long the ball was rolling in your session. This is how long you stopped it for. This is the sort of intervention you had. This is how many times you used humor in your session, that sort of thing. So I think it's becoming really important. And like, I think if we ask players to assess their performance all the time, and then I think we should, as staff and coaches, be able to do the same thing as well. A really good question. Something we link into quite a bit.
Whilst we're on the question front, one from Luke. Have you found there to be vast differences in the way in which you provide analysis, and how long you provide it for to different players of different age groups?
Yeah, again, really good question. And something we're looking at in a minute about obviously tailoring our analysis. So you don't want to be doing the same sort of sessions with under 12s that you're doing with under 16s or under 18s. I think if you were to generally say, like, you would keep stuff more interactive and more fun, almost like a Monday Night Football style at the younger age groups. Like, we're just trying to sort of build habits there. We're not sort of sitting them down in depth, going through all their development points at under 9s, under 10s, under 11s. It's more of just sort of building a habit really of watching games back. And then when you get to the older age groups, so 16s, for example, when you start getting to sort of decision years, it becomes a little bit more, I suppose, individually tailored towards their development plans, what it is that can give them an extra 1-2%. And maybe it's slightly more tactical as well. So that might be a few open analysis sessions where they discuss it, and there's not, point 1, 2, and 3. It's a bit more of an open session. But yeah, it massively varies depending on the age group.
Great. And what in your roles, what piece of technology do you use the most, or do you go to the most to ensure you can perform your role as best as you can?
Yeah, I guess it would be Huddle Sports Code really. So that's pretty central at the minute to all of our processes, whether that's capturing from our IP cameras, whether that's obviously coding, whether that's output windows, whether that's how we store stuff, databasing, feeding back to coaches, all that sort of stuff. And so some of our coaches as well will have sports code themselves. So linking in with those guys and making sure we're all sort of feeding off the same processes. So yeah, sports code would probably be the biggest piece of technology we use, along with the cameras, obviously.
What does a coach look for in a young athlete today, and how can technology support their gut feeling that they feel about play? How does the technology back that up for them?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, firstly, I think in terms of players, especially here, you're looking for like sort of non-dependent players. So players that aren't completely dependent on coaches or analysts or any staff members to like review their performance or to improve themselves. But with that, you obviously have to be quite open to not criticism necessarily, but maybe development points. And I think obviously the video naturally allows that, and it sort of fills in the blank spots or the blind spots that the coaches have. Like, it's unrealistic to ask a coach to recall every part of the game just from watching it on the sidelines, even if it's as simple as you're naturally going to miss more on the far side of the pitch than you are on your side. So we're just watching that back on video. We were lucky enough to have multiple angles, so whether it's using the behind goal angle just to see some bits that you didn't necessarily see in the game. And I think that just allows for a bit more of a sort of a level feedback to the player that's probably more fair as well.
How do you see the use of analytics and technology such as the Pixellot system continue to shape the future of academies, development programs within football? Yeah,
I think massively important. I think especially with the Pixellots that we have, so the ones we have that we use at our talent centres, and then the one fixed camera that we have as well at non-league ground Tottenham that we use is so important. And the fact that you don't have anyone needing to manually film it is really important as well. It means you can have more resource on the development of the players. So it might be that we actually have two analysts working on a B team game, for example, because one doesn't need to film. Maybe one can have a focus on individuals, one can have a focus on team stuff, and it just makes your processes a lot more efficient, I would say. And I think, yeah, it's definitely the way it's going, with having less and less need for sort of a manual sort of filmer, and yeah, you can push your resources into more helpful things, really.
Yeah. What advice would you give to a new development program that's starting out, or current ones that are looking to implement technology and video into their analysis? How would you suggest they get started?
I think just literally from filming your games as a start. And obviously, like we've said, Pixellot's really helpful for that. If you don't necessarily need someone to stand there and film it, you can have even just a coach. That's sometimes how we use it in our development centres. Just a coach set it up before the game. And then just purely, if you've not got a designated analyst or anything like that, if you've got less resources, just having your games filmed for a start, it even allows your players then to like self-regulate, analyze themselves. The coaches can maybe do a little bit as well. I think that's a huge first step, and probably only getting easier as well.
Yeah, definitely. We'll just jump back to a couple of questions that come in. How many analysts do you have at the academy? Obviously, including youth teams, younger age groups, and the girls and women's setup you have as well.
Yeah, so we have 4 full-time in the academy, in the boys' academy. And then alongside that, so that's how that works is Nathan. So Nathan's our head of academy analysis. We have Lauren, who works with our B team, Matt, who works with our under 18s, and myself, that works with the 16s and does the research side of things. And then on top of that, we have 3 work placement students we take on every year. So this year we've got 2 masters and 1 undergrad student, and they help us out with mostly with our schoolboys age groups, so 9s to 16s or 9s to 15s. And then they also assist as well, though, with full-time analysts. So they'll be paired with a full-time analyst, so they can assist Matt, for example, with under 18s, or Lauren with the B team. Then we have a full-time member of staff and usually a work placement student as well on the women's and girls side. So mostly a focus on the women's first team, but they do a little bit around the RTC, so the regional sort of talent centres as well, with the girls and women's side. And then in our first team, we have 3. In a men's first team, we have 3 first team analysts, and again, a work placement student. So I suppose 4 overall with the first team.
Nice, thank you. Yeah, and another one from Archie. How much individual player feedback do you give compared to team analysis? Or what is the split generally? Yeah.
So yeah, we've definitely had more of a sway towards individual stuff. So if I just talk about under 16s, for example, the age group I work with, we will try and get every player to have an individual debrief every week, and we're lucky enough we can do that if we split staff members and bits like that, and try and keep it nice and focused on like their development plans, so it's not too broad of a conversation. and the players have a lot of buy-in with that as well. So we do that, and then also, but we still have the team session, so we still have a pre-match meeting for every game, and then either sort of a frame the week meeting or maybe a debrief. But yeah, definitely more individuals than we ever have had.
Yeah, thank you very much for that. And then just a summary, what are the top 3 tips you would give to a youth coach or a student who wants to become an analyst, is looking to adopt modern methodologies into their academy or their workplace? What 3 tips would you give?
I think for a coach especially, it would be just, I think the coaches here are very good at that. We're very lucky. They're very good at being open and sort of willing to be almost challenged, whether that's through the video, through the data, for other people's opinions, so being open to be challenged. But then also on the flip side of that, I guess the second point is challenging the data and challenging the video and challenging the opinion and stuff like that. So it's not, I suppose you're not blindly following it, but still using it in your workflows. And then using it in your workflows probably is the other bit. So making things a habit, reviewing your footage or reviewing data just a habit rather than, I suppose, a nice to have or something that you do every so often. And I suppose they link nicely into how an analyst would get into the industry as well. So yeah.
Perfect. And just a final summary, as an analyst, how closely or tightly do you work with the coach? Does the coach set what you look for, or is it vice versa? Or how does that interaction work?
Yeah, work really closely. The coach is probably the people we work closest with. And again, very lucky here that they're very open. So it's not them just saying all the time, "Oh, this is what I need, get me this." It's very much your opinions taken into account as well. So whether that's at half time in a game, you're the one that tells them first, this is what I've seen. And then you sort of find out from there how that fits into what they want to feedback and things like that. Sometimes we'll lead analysis sessions as well ourselves. So yeah, very lucky that the coaches are quite open to and trusting of the analysts really. So.
Perfect. Thank you very much. Last couple of minutes. If anyone does have any questions to post, please let us know in the Q&A or the webinar chat. Just give people a moment to get in. But it's back to the MENA Cup. Is it something? Do tournaments like the MENA Cup happen a lot for the younger age groups? Do you go to similar tournaments? Is this something you actively look to do as a club? And
yeah, definitely something we actively look to do, I think, in terms of just because the amount of experiences they get in such a small space of time and the different cultures they can see. So there's been a lot less obviously since COVID. We're starting to get a few more now, but we did under 14s, for example, been to India just before COVID, so that was an amazing experience. Under 14s this season I think are going to Greece soon, so yeah, lots of different experiences for them and something they try and do where possible.
Great to hear. Last minute or so, and if you do have any questions, please drop them in as quickly as you can. Whilst I do that, Con, I want to say thank you very much for your time today. I know you're obviously busy preparing to head out to the MENA Cup, but thanks for taking the time to jump on this, and thank you for everyone taking time out their day to attend the webinar. Hopefully it's been as insightful for you as for me. Last minute question pops in. What does a normal individual analysis look like? How do these vary each week?
So it's a combination really of being, we don't want to make them too broad, so we want to generally they'll be around their development plans. I don't know, for example, say they're working on receiving the ball on the turn. We'd have a few clips around that perhaps, but then also we'll be a little bit reactive on whatever the game looked like. So if there was something that was really outstanding in the game from a really positive point of view, or maybe a development point of view, we wouldn't just not feed that back just because it's not part of their development plan. And they would, what it looks like, I guess, is they have to come with their own clips to start with. So if they don't get an individual debrief. So, but again, it's not many clips. We only ask for 3, 4, 5 clips maybe. So we start with those clips, have a discussion around those. They generally try and bring something that they've got a question about. And then after that, we'll then feedback our clips that myself and the coaches would like to feed back to them. But it's very much sort of a 50-50 split of player-led stuff and coach or analyst-led stuff.
Perfect. Thank you very much for that. And I think that brings a wrap for the time we have for the webinar today. One last one got in quickly. Do you ever use non-video based feedback?
Yeah, so sometimes we'll use the data. So if we want to make a key point maybe in a debrief of, say, for example, we pressed really well. Sometimes it can be quite nice to show through a couple of metrics that, yeah, this is, according to these metrics, this is actually the best we've pressed all season, for example. Might do a similar thing with IDPs. So like I said, if it was receiving the ball on the turn as their IDP, if there's a game that they've been really good at it, we might show them something that relates to that and just show them maybe their progress over the last 6 games. But where possible, we try and link even the data. We'll try and link that back to video clips, so you can see everything visually.
Perfect. Yeah, thank you very much for that. Very good question. And yeah, that brings a wrap for today. I'd like to thank everyone for taking the time to have a chat, and hopefully you have learned a lot, which I have. And Connor, all the best for next week when you head out. I hope you do very well and you enjoy the tournament environment. Any questions, feel free to reach out. If people are in Mina Cup, reach out to Pixellot, reach out to Connor. I'm sure it'll be very beneficial. But thank you very much for your time today, everyone. It's been great. And all the best next week, Connor.
Thanks everyone. Appreciate it. Cheers.